graciously grant to us, we beseech thee, O Lord, the Spirit to think and do always such things that are rightful. The Spirit to think and do always such things that are rightful. That we who cannot exist without thee may be enabled to live according to thy will. Last week on August 2nd, we honored the zealous St. Alphonsus Liguori, the Church's moral doctor. The Roman Breviary says of him, he bound himself by a perpetual vow never to waste any time. Even as St. Alphonsus suffered all sorts of maladies, things like terrible headaches and debilitating arthritis, he kept working. When the saint had a headache, for example, he would hold a piece of cold marble to his head with one hand as he wrote with the other. St. Paul commands us in the letter to the Ephesians to be wise and redeem the time, for the days are evil. Pliny says, live as if you would die tomorrow, but study as if you would live forever. Father Matteo, famous for spreading the home enthronement, the Sacred Heart, he says, to kill time, this is the great sin of our age, to kill time. Now, what is one of the most popular things used to kill the redeeming time that has been given to us to work out our salvation? I think most everyone would agree to this answer. Social media. Social media is a time killer. Does it not grab us? And more often than not, keep us for longer than we plan? Is it redeeming the time using social media? Among the worst offenders is Facebook, I propose to you that Facebook makes its users' lives an open book and leads to opening doors to much trouble and loss of virtue and of grace. Now, perhaps many trying to defend social media might counter this claim, saying Facebook and other similar forms of social media have become the only way to keep in touch in our times, as everyone is using them. Some schools, universities, and jobs even require students and employees to use Facebook. Therefore, everyone should use Facebook because, well, everyone is doing it. Second of all, they might say, well, it's an easy way to connect to a large group of people, such as family, various teams, and friends. It provides for quick and easy responses, Father. Come on. They might add how Facebook is a way to be known, a way to increase in exposure to a business or some other entity like a parish or religious community. It is therefore a valuable tool for communication and fundraising, and it should be used. And finally, hitting closer to home, clever people might say, it can be used to evangelize. Come on, Father, use the best tools available. Then we could add one more, I suppose, and this is an important one probably. Facebook is a great tool, isn't it, to find out what loved ones and friends and even enemies are up to. It's a great spying tool, snooping tool. King David says in the Psalms, I will not set before my eyes any unjust thing. Moses records God commanding him on the mountain. This is from Exodus chapter 23. Thou shalt not follow the multitude to do evil. Just because everybody's doing it, it's not a good excuse to do it. Is this thing good or not? It should come as no surprise at this late date that Facebook easily opens doors to various evils and loss of virtue. Facebook is a worldwide phenomenon, having something like 2.4 billion users in 2019. It's a huge moneymaker too, earning about 18 billion last year. 18 billion. Why so much money? Because it influences people. It works. This is a key point. It influences large amounts of people worldwide, a sort of aping of the Catholic Church. It's a uniter of the people. Thus, it is a great tool to get everyone to think the same way. A way to control thought and actions to reshape culture. In other words, social media helps generate a one world mindset. Everyone thinking the same for a one world community. Here at this parish, we get a regular email about how our websites are lacking because, well, we're not connected to Facebook. Is one of the reasons. Or it's basically saying, come on, conform, get with it. Get connected. You're losing out. One article I read recently claimed we are at the dawn of a new age of consciousness. Quote, this new level of consciousness differs from the earlier period in that it is no longer a consciousness of the individual, but of the collective whole, end quote. So we're in a time in which the individual consciousness is going away and the collective consciousness is coming forward. Is Facebook an effort to help this collective conscious nonsense come about? One wonders. Those longing to make progress toward a more unified world community or even government, and maybe a collective consciousness too, often call themselves progressives. They're into progress. One of their websites is called progressnow.org. Not surprisingly, like the others, they use Facebook to influence people and organize them, stating, quote, we work to promote a progressive agenda, not a partisan one. Our work continues regardless of which party controls the levers of power at the federal, state, and local level. We mobilize citizens through our extensive email lists, media events, and through social networking sites like Twitter and Facebook. End quote. And they claim they've been very successful and effective in reaching citizens across the political spectrum and not simply preaching to the choir. They give it as an example, Barack Obama's successful presidential campaign. Facebook is effective in influencing people, folks, and that's a fact. It is well known to be a venue for fake news and propaganda. Recall the organized attack on the Covington Catholic boy, Nick Sandman, shortly after this last year's pro-life march. The effect exceeded the cause, and everybody knows it, and that's why there's tons of lawsuits. The effect was well beyond the cause. The response was way too quick and out of proportion and overwhelming for normal human reaction. In other words, somebody was using social media to unite a very large group of people to act. Progress now? I don't know. Someone was doing this. It works, in other words. If you think this is exaggerated, then I ask you to look into the 2011 revolution in Egypt and in Tunisia. Facebook played a key role, an essential role, in organizing them and sustaining each of these uprisings. Facebook opens doors to revolution, to lies and cultural destruction, in other words. Furthermore, as everyone should know by now, illegal images of youth, photoshopped pictures, as well as revealing photos have been posted on Facebook and used to mock and bully and blackmail people. This has even led to a number of suicides, especially among the youth. Facebook makes it easier for evil men to prey on our children. This has been proven as true as well. Facebook opens doors that ought to remain closed. It's a door opener, and it's good at it. For many, in order to join a group, to get assignments, job schedules, you must be a member of Facebook. Interesting. Is this not a form, a subtle form maybe not so subtle form of bullying as well? Why is this done? And we'll talk more on it in a moment, but we wonder, is someone being paid for getting people to join it? Or is it part of some special progressive goal to get as many people under the influence of social media as possible? In communist China, if you study it, especially under Mao Zedong, one of the most effective forms of correction was group bullying. And it was effectively employed to force dissenters to conform to the party line. You could not even think anything contrary to the party line, and they were on you. The pressure they faced was unbearable. Study history. Learn about China. You'll be shocked. I read a book on Mao. I had a hard time sleeping at night at times to know what really happened in that poor country. Facebook greatly reduces parental control. I think most parents that have dealt with this know this too well and are probably weeping tears of sorrow. Facebook greatly reduces parental control of their children's friends. It makes it difficult to determine with whom their children are communicating. And so they don't know if they're up to doing something illegal, something criminal, impure, bullying, or just plain dangerous. Parents are supposed to be vigilant about their children's contacts. But the progressives want to destroy that authority. And Facebook is paving the way. Facebook, once again, opens doors that ought to be kept closed. What is more, Facebook opens the door to highly addictive forms of gossip, with the latest juicy news coming in regularly. Whether it's true or not, who cares? It sure is juicy. Since people are continually using it. Name-calling and venting of anger is much easier on Facebook, is it not? I know a pastor who was on Facebook just to see what his parishioners were constantly conspiring against him. They were open about it on Facebook. They were passive in front of him and aggressive behind. And it can be entertaining and engaging to do these things, is it not? Facebook also leads to narcissism, thinking about yourself all the time, as users feel they have to regularly post information about themselves, including pictures, to keep their Facebook active. Why would they post anything unless there's feedback from those on one's Facebook list? They also like to compare themselves with the Joneses, regularly comparing themselves to the pictures and the events. I know one family, I've heard about them, whose children discovered their fellow parishioners on Facebook, those of their own age or around their own age, only to see them not dressed modestly away from the church. Soon these children of this family gave up their modest clothing in imitation of their friends, as seen on social media. Hey, Dad, they're doing it. Why can't we? Facebook leads to loss of grace and virtue. Facebook takes people away from interacting with those around them as one starts living in virtual reality. Facebook, therefore, actually makes one antisocial, and yet at the same time prideful for having all these friends in virtual reality. Is this really how we should keep in touch with people? All these are clearly rotten fruits that most are familiar with, sad to say. I would venture that many here could even add to the list of poisonous fruits. Not surprisingly, various studies have shown that those who give up Facebook find they are relieved and much happier. One study conducted on over 1,000 people in Denmark, with 1/2 of them abstaining from Facebook and the other using it, concluded this, quote, "Those who had abstained from Facebook reported feeling more enthusiastic, less lonely, less worried, and more decisive. They spent more time seeing family and friends face to face and said they found it easier to concentrate too," end quote. One participant summed up what many found to be true. Quote, after a few days, I noticed my to-do list was getting done faster than normal as I spent my time more productively. I also felt a sort of calmness from not being confronted by Facebook all the time, end quote. But there is that other very important aspect of Facebook still to be considered, and in some sense probably the most important. Namely, its ability to make its users an open book. The founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, holds that privacy is no longer a social norm. Really? Yes, he made it possible for hundreds of millions of people to log into their social media of choice each and every day and share the most intimate details of their life with the world at large. Facebook is surely among the greatest research tools of the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, MI5, and all the rest of the secret service agencies around the world, as well as government and law enforcement agencies. People tell all about themselves and what they're planning. People can check up on others by using fake Facebook profiles, as criminals do. They can stalk persons of interest. It happens all the time. I have heard the Facebook like and dislike buttons. I've never had a Facebook, thank God. But there's these like and dislike buttons. Apparently, they reveal a lot of information about the person when clicking on them. And that people who know what they are doing can post on that person's page or on their own page or others elsewhere things that will get them in trouble. You can be framed, in other words. Bosses can spy on employees. That's why they want you on Facebook. Check out prospective hirees to see whether they conform to the ideology of a business or they can fire them for similar reasons, all based on Facebook. Now notice that's the reverse of today's gospel, isn't it? The steward is actually the virtuous one, and the rich man is the ideologue. And he's checking in on the steward to see if he's towing the line on the latest ideology on LGBTQ stuff. Or you're going to get fired. And finally, and this is very important, and we should not underestimate this, Mark Zuckerberg is able to access everyone's page. He cannot be blocked. Isn't that convenient? In a word, Facebook can easily turn into an open book about a person and their life. Is that what you want for your loved ones and for you? Clearly, from this information alone, we can see that Facebook opens up doors to the world, the flesh, and the devil. Doors to loss of virtue and loss of grace. Doors to loss of time to fulfill our duties in redeeming the time, to save our souls. It can easily become an open book to be used against us and to expose us to many dangers and trials, or bully us into conformity and human respect. Now, even if you've not experienced any of these poisonous fruits that I've delineated today, do you really want to submit to a man like Mark Zuckerberg, a paradigm of virtue? After listing of these rotten fruits, I hope you agree that using Facebook is not worth the little good that may come from using it. Let's take the challenge of that Denmark test ourselves and quit this form of social media and see what happens. Surely what happened to them will happen to us. Namely, we will regain our enthusiasm to fulfill our duties of our state in life, to be less lonely. We'll be less worried and more decisive. We will make efforts to spend more time seeing family and friends face to face, as well as communicating in a more regular fashion. Our to-do list will get done faster than normal, while virtue and calmness will grow in our souls. Let's not give way to the false wisdom of the children of this world, but rather remain as children of the light and redeem the time, for the days are truly evil. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.